I'm Howie Silberger, your political hitman here on Israel News Talk Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. You could join me in the chat room by going to israelnewstalkradio.com and clicking on that button that says chat room right there on the top of the page. It's right there on israelnewstalkradio.com. You could also join in on the conversation and you could call in. The numbers are on the top of the page on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. So just head over there to IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Yes, I've said it 4 times already. Head over there to IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. That's the 5th time. And check out the numbers on the top of the page and join me in the chat room. When I was a kid, I was always told, get a good education. Go to school, take school seriously, go to university after you finish high school, get an education, and get a couple of degrees, get a degree, get 2 degrees, get a couple of things. Be prepared for adult life by having a good education and being able to use that education to get a good job and to be able to live a nice, comfortable life. And I took that advice. I went to university. I got multiple university degrees. And then 20 years later, I went back to university. And university changed between when I was first at university and when I went back. University changed completely. And it's changing even more. You are not going to believe, and you're really, really not going to believe, it's going to blow your socks off. If you haven't seen the story yet, it's going to blow your socks off. What Ivy League universities are now doing to their students. What they're inflicting on their students. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more right here on Political Hitman. Please feel free to join me in the chat room on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. You could call in. The numbers to call are on the top of the page on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, so feel free to call in and be part of the program. I'd love to hear from you. We're talking about universities, higher education, and the horrific stuff that universities are doing to students, especially Ivy League universities, what they're doing to students today. I'm Howie Silberger. This is Political Hitman right here on Israel News Talk Radio.
Too.
I'm Howie Silberger, your political hitman, right here on Israel News Talk Radio. Feel free to join me in the chat room on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, where the discussion has already started. And, of course, you could call in. The numbers to call, 301-768-4841 if you are in North America. In Israel, the number is 0265 Those are the numbers to call in to get in on the conversation here on Israel News Talk Radio. My name is Howie Silberger. This is Political Hitman, and I would love to talk to you. So, my parents told me, get a good education, go to university, get that university degree, get as much education as you can while you're young, and therefore you will have the education and you will get the good job as you get older. So I listened to them, and I went and I got the education. I got 2 university degrees. By the time I was 24, I had 2 university degrees. And I got the good jobs, I got the paying jobs, I got the well-paying jobs. I did okay. So fine, we move on. 20 years later, I decided to go back to school because I wanted to further my education. I wanted to get another specialty, another degree. And so I entered a program that I had started 20 years earlier, and I had dropped out of. And so I had a few years to go, and so I went in. And the difference between university in the 90s and university in the 2020s, or the 2019s, 2018s, is unbelievable. The woke crowd is enough to drive you crazy. The people who think that because they are woke, they could judge you. I was the old man in university when I was in university the first time. I was a kid. I was the youngest one there, and here I was the oldest one in most of my classes. And they really came after me. I speak my mind, as I do here on the radio and as I do everywhere else. I speak my mind, and they came after me. And so I finished the degree. I got the degree, and everything was cool. Everything was cool. But I was thinking, what are students learning in these universities? Why do they exist? Is there any point in sending your kids to university today? And I had almost come to a conclusion. I had worked it out in my brain, and I came to a near conclusion that maybe there was some value in university education. And then I saw the news report this week, just a couple of days ago. Harvard University, an Ivy League university, has hired Palestinian Authority negotiator Saeb Erekat to teach their students about diplomacy. Now, when I first read this, when I first read the headline, I had to stop laughing. I started laughing, and I had to stop laughing. It was funny, and I was thinking, why am I laughing? This is infinitely sad. This is terrible. But I laughed. And then I read it again, and I read the article, and I laughed again. And then I started thinking about it and thinking about how horrific the situation is. So, for those of you who don't know who Saeb Erekat is, I have 2 things to share with you. One will be a comment from Israel Hayom, a newspaper in Israel that appeared on August 29th, and another will be a story, a personal story, a story I had a connection with. So, we'll start with the story I had a connection with. About a decade ago, maybe a little more than a decade ago, I was sitting in synagogue on a Saturday morning when the rabbi of the synagogue got up to give his sermon. And he got up and he said, "Listen, I have something to tell you." And we were all looking at him. "Okay, what do you have to tell us?" He said, "I went to a luncheon this past week, and I sat with almost every pulpit rabbi in Canada. And we greeted a delegation from the Palestinian Authority headed by Saeb Erekat." And then the rabbi continued with a long justification on why he went. He was invited by the Canadian government, and he was invited by the United Jewish Appeal, or the Canadian Jewish Appeal as they call it in Canada. And He says, I went there and I sat through a speech by Arafat and some of the other. Well, he didn't mention Arafat by name, but he sat through a speech by some of the leaders of the Palestinian Authority. And then they ate dinner with him, or lunch or dinner. They ate a meal with him. I was sitting in the crowd and I was listening to this, and I said, interesting. Interesting that a bunch of pulpit rabbis who claim to be supporters of the State of Israel went to meet people who commit terrorism against the State of Israel, who call for the destruction of the State of Israel, who actively work and made it their lives' goals to destroy the State of Israel, who openly promote their annexation of all of the land of Israel and the expulsion or the genocide of the Jewish people there. I found it infinitely fascinating that these rabbis would go and sit and have a meal with these people. So, the rabbi of my synagogue was a regular on my radio show. So that Sunday, we got on the air together. And I said to the rabbi, and I called him out on it. I said to him, Rabbi, how did you go do this? And I had done a little bit of research before because he didn't mention any names. But I found out that Saib Erekat was one of the major speakers at this event. And not only was he one of the major speakers at this event, he was the keynote speaker at the event. But during his speech, Erekat called the State of Israel a genocidal state and referred to the government of the State of Israel as a Nazi government. And the pulpit rabbi sat and listened to him. So, I asked the rabbi, I said, hey, Rabbi, I know that Saib Erekat said that Israel is a genocidal state committing genocide against the Palestinians, and that Israel is a Nazi state. This is what he said, and the government of the State of Israel are no better than the Nazis. I know this is what he said. How did you react to that? When he said that, how did you react to that? You claim to be a supporter of the State of Israel. You claim to love the State of Israel. You claim to be an ardent Zionist. How did you react when you were sitting at an invited event and the speaker, the keynote speaker, referred to Israel as Nazis and genocidal maniacs? His answer, quite simply, was, we didn't say anything. Him and all the pulpit rabbis. So I asked him, I said to him, was there any reason you didn't say anything? And his response was, we were instructed not to. We were told by the Jewish Federation, and we were asked by the Canadian government to show respect to the guests of the Canadian government and to not interrupt his speech or to have any kind of a protest or any kind of a debate with him. And I stopped. And if you listen back to the archive, you'll hear this. There was like a couple of seconds, a good few seconds stop. And in radio, when you stop talking for a few seconds, it sounds like an hour. And I stopped for a few seconds, and I said to him, and you listened to that directive? And he said, yes, I did. And so did every other pulpit rabbi in Canada. Because, he says, you have to understand that on my board of directors, there are high-profile people who are involved with the government, who are involved with the Combined Jewish Appeal, involved with the Federation. And if I bucked the trend, he told me, I would be out of a job. That's what he said. I said to him, doesn't principles sometimes matter more than the job? Sometimes when you stand up for principle, it's more than the job. He says, maybe for you, I have a family to feed. I said, okay, fine. He made his decision. He made his moral decision. And if he could live with that moral decision, that's fine. He's now a prominent rabbi in the States, so perhaps he could live with his moral decision. But it always bothered me, and it's over a decade later, and the story still bothers me that hundreds of pulpit rabbis, hundreds of rabbis who are leaders, and I use leaders very loosely when I talked about pulpit rabbis in the States and in Canada. And a bunch of pulpit rabbis would sit around and allow a speaker uninterrupted and unchallenged to call Israel a genocidal and Nazi state. And that speaker was Saeb Erekat, who is going to be teaching at Harvard this semester. He's going to be teaching diplomacy, because that was one of the most diplomatic things he did. It's shocking to me that a institute of higher education, and I'll use that loosely too, that an institute of higher education would hire a man like Erekat. But they did. Now, when we come back from the break, we're going to break in a couple of seconds. When we come back from the break, I want to share with you a comment that Israel Hayom, the newspaper in Israel, published on August 29th. I want to share that with you. And I invite you to call in. I invite you to join me on the show. You can go to IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com and join me in the chat room. You can call in. In North America, the number is 301-768-4841. In Israel, the number is 02-6500-151. I'm Howie Silbiger, and you are listening to Political Hitman on Israel News Talk Radio. I'm Howie Silbiger, your political hitman, right here on Israel News Talk Radio. Feel free to join me in the chat room on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, and that's where the chat room is. You can call in and be part of the program. The number to call in North America, 301-768-4841. In Israel, the number is 02-6500-151. So Harvard University, a supposed Ivy League university, a university that people are supposed to strive to go to, located in Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States of America, has hired Dr. Saeb Erekat, and I use doctor very loosely too, has hired Saeb Erekat. He is he was Yasser Arafat's right-hand man when Fatah was blowing up Jews. He was Mahmoud Abbas's right-hand man when Fatah was blowing up Jews. He's been around. He's been around blowing up Jews for a long time, and now he is a honored guest lecturer at Harvard University for the semester. He's teaching a course on diplomacy. Israel Hayom had a comment on it. I wanted to share the comment with you because I thought it was right on. Most of the time they don't hit it right on the nail, but this time they hit it right on the nail. This is they really got to the essence of it. So this is what they wrote. They wrote, Dr. Saeb Erekat has a lifelong mission to bring about peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Perhaps he wasn't born with this dream, but it soon became his life calling. He first became involved with peace talks during the 1991 Madrid conference as deputy head of the Palestinian delegation. He then went on to become the most senior and most trusted Palestinian negotiator. He represented the Palestinian people in Oslo, Camp David, Taba, and Annapolis. For almost 3 decades, Erekat led the Palestinian people nowhere. Summit after summit, talk after talk, he always walked away from the table instead of improving the Palestinians' political goals. He diminished them. Yet last week, Harvard University, one of the best research institutions in the world, chose to appoint Erekat as one of the 4 visiting fellows who will teach this upcoming year at the John F. Kennedy School of Government. Unfortunately, it seems as if a reputable institution like Harvard has fallen victim to the populist worldview of the extreme American left. There are undoubtedly dozens, if not hundreds, of policymakers, diplomats, and political activists around the world who will make remarkable impacts in their field. Erekat is surely not one of them. The decision to appoint him as a visiting lecturer at Harvard has nothing to do with his achievements or skills. It's merely a product of the university's desire to seem progressive. This problematic approach of rewarding individuals not on the basis of their merit, but on the basis of what they represent does not end with academia. It is the same approach that led Nobel Committee to award the coveted Peace Prize to U.S. President Barack Obama fewer than 9 months after his election. No one truly believes that Obama made a significant contribution to the world peace during that short period of time, and yet he was chosen. Even worse, he was probably awarded the prize at the expense of other candidates who probably devoted their lives to real substantial progress towards peace in places like Afghanistan or China. But who cares? Obama looked better on camera. This reality is extremely concerning. What exactly will Professor Erekat teach his students? How to turn a blind eye to the murder of innocent civilians? How to repeatedly turn down peace offers? Will these lessons serve as the basis on which the world's next generation of diplomats and policymakers who are currently attending the school are trained and educated? And it's an excellent question. Harvard puts out more diplomats and more politicians than almost any other university in the United States. So the people who are going to be taking Erekat's course will likely go into diplomacy, will likely go into some kind of political career. Journalism, a political career, diplomacy, international lawyers. There's a million things that they could go to, in that route where they would take his course. So here we have a situation where we have a murderer. Those who plan murder and those who turn a blind eye to murder are just as guilty of killing people as the people who actually commit the murder. So here we have a murderer, a man who committed murder against Jews and Americans and people in Paris. A man who helped organize and fund and run one of the largest terror organizations in the world, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. At least it was one of the largest terror organizations in the world. And now he's going to teach at a prestigious university and have a prestigious credit attached to his name. It's maddening. It's sad. It's sick, and it's maddening. Anybody who knows anybody who was a victim of a terror attack, anybody who has any connection to a terror victim from the Palestinian Authority or the Palestinian Liberation Organization, Fatah, or any of the other crazy branches of this genocidal, crazy organization, should be outraged that Harvard hired this man to teach. You should be blowing your mind. You should be going nuts. Yet not a peep. None of the media have really covered this, and not a peep from really anybody. So why the quietness? Why is everyone afraid to say anything? Well, there's a couple of reasons. very many reasons on why people don't want to say anything. And one of those reasons is that American Jews, and don't forget he was hired by an American university, so American Jews just are not as supportive as Israel as they used to be. It's as simple as that. Those who supported Israel already moved to Israel. Those who are left over are part of the ranks and file of the leftist movement. They support They support BDS. They support the annihilation and the destruction of the state of Israel. And we talked about this before in the show. This is not new information. Let's go to the phone. Sam from Ohio. Welcome to the program. Hi, Sam.
Hello. My question is about capitalism in America. At first, I wanted to say my own idea. I think what America needs is some fundamental change. I mean, listen to what Bernie Sanders is saying. If we look very closely to infrastructure of our country, we see that the rich are getting richer and the poor is giving all its money to the rich. I'm calling it from inside America to just tell you one thing, and it is that America is not the heaven everyone wants to be in. I'd be glad to know your idea too. But my main, I called you to say one thing, and it's actually about the election. I want to elect someone that could resolve the capitalism in America, and I think that person would be Bernie Sanders, not Trump, because during his presidency, we saw that the only thing we saw was the growth of capitalism, and we saw that the rich was getting richer, and that is not right.
Sam, let me ask you a question, Sam.
Very better president for United States of America.
Let me ask you a question, Sam. Bernie Sanders is an admitted communist, so he spent his youth running around Russia and Cuba, and then he got married and had his honeymoon at Cuba, communist-run countries, and he's expressed his support of communism and socialism. Now, when we look at communism, forget about socialism; it's just communism light. But when we take a look at communism, there is no communist regime that has allowed freedom of religion. Religion is the first thing they suppress because religion says that we live by a moral code, and when that moral code is broken, we stand up and we object to the fact that the moral code is broken. So, in order for communists to go and kill millions of people who are dissidents and who disagree with them, you have to get rid of that moral code. So they suppress religion. So that was the first thing they did. So I don't understand how you would think that Bernie Sanders would run America with more Christian values when he supports communism. I don't get it. Sam, are you still there?
I don't say that Bernie Sanders would run America in a better way. I would just say that it's not right to have capitalism, and if you want to choose one president that could solve this problem...
Oh, whoa, one sec. I misunderstood what you said. I thought you said that Bernie Sanders was going to promote Catholicism. Oh, you want him to suppress religion. You don't like religion. Is that what you're saying? Are you looking to suppress religion in the next election? Is that what you want, Sam?
No.
Because I'm not understanding what your argument is here.
Suppressing religion is not good. I'm saying that all I'm saying is about Catholicism.
Okay.
All I'm saying is about Catholicism, and I want it to be removed from America immediately, because I'm seeing lines of people coming for food in this pandemic, and all they have has been destroyed by COVID-19. You know what? You know why? Because there is a line. If you are above that, you are getting richer every day. And where is this money coming from, actually? This money coming from those people who are under that line, you know? and I want this to be ended.
Okay, so
Because it's
so
not right.
you don't like the fact that hungry people you don't like the fact that Catholic organizations give food to hungry people. You want people to just starve to death like in Venezuela? Is that what we're looking for here, Sam? Are we looking for people to just starve like in Venezuela? So the government shouldn't give people food? Because I'm not following your logic here. You said that you don't like Catholicism because there are people in food lines, and they're getting food, and Catholicism says that
No.
you have to
I
feed
don't
people.
say that
So
the government shouldn't give people food. I say that people must not need that food. It's the result of capitalism that they need food from government. They should be, if they have some money aside.
All right, we're off. Sam,
Yeah.
Sam.
I don't know. All I want to say is that capitalism is not right.
Sam.
It must be ended, and
Sam.
I don't think that this.
All right.
All right.
I'm muting him for a second.
all right.
We're on a.
I'm Howie Silberger. This is Political Hitman here on Israel News Talk Radio. Feel free to join me in the chat room on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, and of course, you could feel free to call in just like Sam from Ohio did. Numbers to call in North America: 301-768-4841. In Israel, the number is 02-650-0151, and you could talk to me right here on the air, live radio. Feel free to call in and be part of the program, or join me in the chat room, and you can be part of the program there too. So we're talking about universities. We're talking about Saeb Erekat, and his appointment as a lecturer at Harvard University. I think that after the universities start hiring terrorists and terrorist supporters to be professors, it might be time to have second thoughts about sending children there. Impressionable young children. I don't care how prestigious the place is, and I don't care what the place is. Any place that's going to hire the leader of PLO terror is not a place that I would ever want to visit or send my children to. Simple as that. And I think people should start holding these institutions accountable, and the government should start holding these institutions accountable. I mean, they had to apply for this professor. I don't know. It's hard to even call him that. For this man to come in and lecture at Harvard, they had to get a license. They had to get a visa for him, and in order to get a visa, they had to prove that he was coming in, for lecturing purposes, whatever. The American government should have denied that visa. They have a policy; they don't allow terrorists into town. So why would they give him a visa? But apparently, he got one. I really don't believe for a second that the people who are going to be attending this class, and I don't know if it's a compulsory class, I don't know anything about the club course, but I don't believe for a second that the people attending this course are going to get any balanced view on anything and any benefit from attending a course with this man as the lecturer. So it's unfortunate that people are going to be wasting their money, students are going to be wasting their time, and this man is going to be given a pulpit to expose his hate of the Jewish people and of the state of Israel. Very, very, very sad. All right, so Sam was talking about the election. The American election is coming up in just a couple of months, November, beginning of November. And I wanted to touch a little bit on the election. I didn't really understand what Sam was saying, so I'm not sure what point he was trying to make. But let's make the point that in my view, and I've been watching a lot of coverage of politics. I've been watching a lot of coverage of the riots. I've been watching a lot of coverage of the COVID response. I've been watching a lot of coverage of a lot of things in the States. And my humble view is there is only one choice for president of the United States this coming election, and that's Donald Trump. Not because I'm a Trump supporter. I'm really not a Trump supporter. I like him as president, but I'm not one of those diehard supporters who won't admit that he's done some pretty awful things. I mean, some of the stuff he's done has been pretty awful. Some of the stuff he's done has been pretty good, like every other president. But I support the fact that he is not afraid to stand up for what is principled. I was going to say what is moral, but let's keep morality out of this. He stands up for what is principled, and I appreciate the fact that he stands up for what is principled. He doesn't flip-flop. He says something, and that's where he goes. I've been watching Biden a lot, Joe Biden. He's the Democratic candidate. I've been watching him a lot, and his flip-flopping, his changing his opinion every single day on different policies, on different perspectives of different things, and he keeps changing his opinion. That bothers me a lot. I like a politician where I know where they stand, and I could trust that that's where they're going to stand. I could see the direction they're going in. But that's me, and that's what I believe in. And if I was able to vote in the American election, I would vote for Donald Trump, not because he's a great guy, not because he's a moral person, but because he is a darn good president. Simple as that. Other people disagree with me. Of course they do. And that's fine. That's why I have an opinion. You have an opinion. And that's why I have open lines. So if you want to call in, you can feel free to do that. Number to call, 301-768-4841 in North America. In Israel, the number is 02-6500151. Feel free to call in, and we could discuss it. I'd be more than happy to discuss any aspect of this with you. I am willing to wager dollars to donuts that after November, I mean, Joe Biden pretty much said it yesterday during a speech, but I'm pretty much willing to wager after November, if Donald Trump wins, the violence and the riots and the craziness continues. If Donald Trump loses, all this disappears. Because you see, even if they say that this is all about Black Lives Matter, and this is all about police brutality against the black community. The truth is that this is a political ploy to get Donald Trump out of office. Simple as that. The violence, the looting, the chaos in the States is a distraction to the American people, and it's there simply to distract them from the good that Donald Trump is doing, so the Democrats could point to these lootings and those riots and this hate and this and the division in society and say it was all caused by Donald Trump. You're starting to see that already. Joe Biden said during his speech yesterday, and he was very clear, and he said, do you think if Donald Trump is elected that this violence is going to stop? He says, it's not going to stop. You can't be clearer than that. He let the cat out of the bag. This was pre-planned, much like the intifadas, much like other political violence, which is there to sway public opinion. This violence was pre-planned and will continue until the election day, or until Donald Trump decides, as president, to send the troops in to put it down. But don't for a second believe that this has anything to do with social justice. Don't for a second believe that the results of any of this is going to be a better life for anybody in the United States. It's just going to cause pain and misery and destroy the life work of many people who worked hard to build up businesses and who worked hard to build lives in the States, and now are now seeing all that hard work being burned down, ripped down, and destroyed. Don't for a second think that this isn't politics. Everything that happens in the United States during an election year is politics. This is not any different. The Black Lives Matter movement, we spoke about it a couple of shows ago, is a violent, fascist, Marxist movement. They are very, very clear about who they are and what their goal is. One of the leaders of the Black Lives Movement, one of the founders of the Black Lives Movement, made it very clear right at the beginning of all this that their goal is to remove Donald Trump from office. She made it extremely clear. She said it outright. And like I say a lot, and I've never backed away from this statement, and I continue to say it. When people causing violence, when people killing people, when people are in charge of creating civil unrest, and they say something, if they say I'm going to kill you, if they say I don't like you, if they say that our goal is to achieve this, whatever it is, whatever point they're trying to make, when they say that, they mean it. There is no reason to doubt them. There is no reason to think that they misspoke. There is no reason to think that that's not really what they said, and to parse the words. When people say things in public, in general, they mean what they say. When the leader of Black Lives Matter said, our goal is to get Donald Trump out of office, and out of office before the election. Don't take my word on any of this. Look it up. It's all on YouTube. When she said that, then we knew right away that civil unrest, that social justice, that justice for whatever, put in whoever's name you want to put in there, was all a cover. The idea is to overthrow the government and install a Marxist socialist state. It's very unfortunate that many good-willed people, many people who really believed in the cause, I mean the fake cause, really believed in the cause, got caught up in this movement. It's very unfortunate. They raised money for this movement. They got caught up in this movement. They wanted to look woke. They wanted to look like they were part of everyday society. They wanted me to look like me and people like me to look like we were old men. But at the end of the day, pure analysis of the situation, you see it right away. This is a political ploy to get Donald Trump to lose the election or to get thrown out of office before the election. Period. Point blank. There's nothing more to it than that. Now, it's gone around the world. That's fine. I mean, people take up a cause. It's gone around the world, but the riots and the and the violence in the United States' sole purpose is to destroy Trump. Well, we're just about out of time. I'm Howie Silberger. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I want to remind you that we are on every week, and we are live, which means that you could call in every week and be part of the program here on Israel News Talk Radio. It is a pleasure and an honor for me to be joining you every week, to talk to you every week, to share some ideas, and to hear some of yours. And I'm really happy that Israel News Talk Radio has given me the opportunity to be here. It's been 4 years already, and hopefully we'll be here for a lot longer than that. And I want to thank them for giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I'm Howie Silberger. This is Political Hitman right here on Israel News Talk Radio. I'll see you next week.